And we will get back to that story here in just a bit, but new tornado warning just issued for portions of Beaufort County down into northern Craven County. This is the storm we just talked about, how it was looking a little bit stronger, had a lot of heavy rain with it. Not a great sign of severe weather, but it's still something worth watching, especially right here. You can kind of see this bulge out ahead of that main line. That's where some of those stronger winds are going to be pushing out. And it's a severe threat right now. If there is any tornado threat, it's going to be right over the river there, north of Highway 33, kind of on the east side of Chocowinity, pushing into Washington. So if you're in Washington and even still on the south side of the river, need to be in your tornado safe spot as this continues to move off towards the northeast. Let me read off some of the locations and details for this tornado warning. Radar indicated, so not confirmed tornado, but still seeing signs that maybe there is a little bit of rotation and just something worth watching. Severe thunderstorm continues as well for northern Beaufort County and even portions further up to the northeast. These storms moving very, very fast, 55 miles per hour. Radar indicated rotation there, crossing the river. And I'm going to go over to our Washington camera and see if we can maybe pull that up. In the back, if y'all can get that ready. We'll see if maybe we can see something, though. At nighttime, it is very hard to see through a lot of these cameras. Zooming in a little bit, you see right there along the river road area. That's where it looks like maybe some of that rotation is. Maybe even back down towards Vanceboro as well. Kind of see a little bit of rotation showing up as well. So kind of a couple spots that we're watching closely with this line as it continues to move off to the northeast. You've got some strong winds on the north end of this storm. Right there at the end of that tornado warning, this is pushing up towards Plymouth. Plymouth, you are now in a severe thunderstorm warning with this cell. And maybe a little bit of rotation over the river as well. But also back down near Vanceboro. That's kind of looking like maybe the primary spot. We'll stop this, put it out of motion, and see if maybe we can briefly see any sign that maybe there was anything that touched down. Looking clean there, but still expecting a little bit of a tornado threat with this storm right there north of Vanceboro. So looking back on it, this may be the prime reason they issued this tornado warning, but still seeing maybe a little bit of rotation there along River Road, the east side of Washington, Old Bath Highway, Highway 32, 264. It's kind of where, if there's another little area of rotation, that's worth watching. But this area of rotation north of Vanceboro still looking a little bit stronger near Gray Road. So we'll have a little bit more time to maybe get our cameras together and kind of give you a better idea of what we're watching. So I know I'm not on screen right now, but I'm trying to move a lot of our cameras around just in case we may be able to see something from them, even though it is dark outside. There's not a lot of lightning with these storms. Most of these storms continue to just be heavy downpours. You can certainly see the rain coming down, though, from our camera there in Washington. To move this down a little bit, see just on the ground all the heavy rain. If we can pull this Washington camera up instead of radar at the earliest opportunity, you can kind of see what I'm seeing. Just continue to see a heavy driving rain with winds. Now, winds are already very strong. We talked about that just a few minutes ago. And so these storms are able to pull down some of those stronger winds. So when you're already getting 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts, you get a band of rain or something to maybe pull down some of those stronger winds way above our heads. That's when you start to maybe get into wind gusts closer to or over 60 miles per hour. This is going to be right near Gray Road, Hall Branch Road as well, about to cross Highway 33. Remember, these storms moving quick, 55 miles per hour. So that's something we're going to have to watch closely because these are going to be covering a lot of ground in between radar scans. So just to zoom out, give you an idea of what we're watching. Also have a storm there, Snow Hill down to LaGrange. That is not as strong as the storm as we're watching across the Pamlico River. And this has been just a very heavy band of rain. And you kind of, if I mark it here for you, you can kind of see right through here. Notice how that bulges out a little bit. That's usually an indication that there's a little bit faster air moving in part of that storm. So that's why we have both a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning in effect with this cell that's going to be crossing over the river. You notice this cell is kind of on its own. There's a little bit of a break in that heavier rain there from that cell that we're watching east of Highway 17, right on the county line, all the way up to the cell that's kind of crossing over into Washington. That's why we saw maybe two areas, a little bit of rotation. This doesn't look like anything major or tight, super tight rotation, but that's kind of what caught my eye at the first opportunity. Then you have these stronger straight line winds that we'll continue to keep our eye on. Plymouth, this is going to be moving in probably for the next 10 minutes with the area of rotation. So a little bit of, multiple threats with this storm. One straight line wind and maybe, 1-2 areas of rotation. Vanceboro, this is already past you. So if the tornado warning got your attention, this has already moved past you right on the county line, probably already past the county line. If this is moving at 55 miles per hour, this is not something that's going to be hanging around. So this has really moved into probably more of a Beaufort County issue rather than a Craven County issue. And there it is, that newest scan already across the county line there. CC Road, Hall Branch Road, Mile Road pretty close to this, tracking up to the northeast, Possum Track Road, Highway 33. So let's zoom all the way out. Put a storm track on this. If a storm's moving this fast, it's easier to kind of be behind the scenes, moving all our cameras and everything. Zooming out this about 55 miles per hour to the northeast. There's some arrival times. River Road, 11:27, Jamesville, 11:50, Plymouth, 11:57. So that main area that we're watching for rotation is still down to the south. But again, I mentioned that other spot we were kind of keeping our eye on too. Put a track on that one as well. Kind of right there over Washington. Put another track on this, moving northeast at about 55 miles per hour. Let me clear this. Draw this again. Moving off to the northeast, 55 miles per hour. So that other little area of maybe some very weak rotation, Jamesville, 11:35, Plymouth, 11:42, Maryhill, 11:52. And if it holds together, Edenton, right there, closer to midnight. So that's going to cover some ground, but you can just see how fast these are moving. If you're in those straight line winds, you can really see that those straight line winds will be there a little bit sooner. Kind of right there, already getting close to Plymouth. Jamesville, you may have already seen a little bit of an increase in the wind. Hard to tell on nights like tonight where those wind gusts are already pretty strong. But, if there were some stronger wind gusts, I'm sure they've gotten your attention. Plymouth, you're next in line to see those. Skinnersville could even see that. Let me see. We've got a radar that is not working properly. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off so we can get a better view of what we're looking at. Good news is the radar site that's closest to us is still working. Both Raleigh and Morehead City. The radar site a little bit further north into Virginia is having a few issues since this morning. So it's not quite as reliable as it usually is. So we'll have to watch that if these storms continue to get closer to the sound. But for now, radar coverage looks pretty good. Looking at the National Weather Service, not seeing an update for them. They did say hail is possible in this storm. Really thinking this is a wind and tornado threat just because of how strong the winds already are. You can kind of see this one cell by itself. That's the one that initially spawned the tornado warning. But like I mentioned, that band of heavier rain off to the north continues to kind of show signs at times of a little bit of rotation. So if you're through that first round that's already across the river, not done yet. This is kind of the cell right here. And you can see just in the reds, a little bit of kind of a C showing that there is a little bit of spin within this updraft, within this storm. And that's what we're going to be tracking as it heads off to the north. Tornado warning still in effect for probably another about 30 minutes or so. Heavy rain right here north of Washington, so there's going to be a break. Not much lightning, can't really see anything. It's dark at night, and the clouds are pretty low, but they're moving fast. You can kind of see just the heavy rain picks back up again as you head further north. Most of this, really all of this activity is east of Highway 17. So if you're right along Highway 17, think you're in the clear. This is all going to stay on the east side of that highway. Tornado warning goes all the way up almost to Jamesville, not quite into city limits. But if they did issue another tornado warning, Jamesville and probably further up towards Plymouth would be the next in line. You do have a severe thunderstorm warning just because I think there are some pretty strong winds. When we already have winds gusting so high tonight, we're expecting not not going to be hard to get winds closer to or above severe weather criteria. The red right here, it's kind of the opposite of the rotation. Instead of a C, it's kind of a backward C, almost an S trying to form. So your strongest winds are going to be right over Highway 64 right now, about to push over into Plymouth. So even though not a tornado warning for in between Jamesville and Plymouth, maybe stay away from the windows just in case there is a little bit of flying debris or those wind gusts kind of perk back up and get a little bit stronger as well. You can see this is just a regular velocity showing us the regular speed of the winds. It's kind of maxed out on both scales, both your red and your blue, all the way up to kind of those gold colors. So we use a little bit one that kind of slows everything down, gets rid of some of those higher wind speeds, and kind of shows you the area to be most concerned about. Still pretty bright. You know, we're getting closer to 60, maybe even over 60 miles per hour there, east of Highway 64, pushing into the Plymouth area. So would expect maybe the chance of a few power outages pushing into the Plymouth area, but the real issue is going to be all the way down into portions of Beaufort County. It's still south of the river, not really seeing the rotation as much anymore north of Washington. Even that initial area of rotation that is now crossing Highway 33. See how the reds are bright, but on the backside it's kind of a little bit of a duller color. That's kind of just showing you that rotation, not quite as tight as it was earlier, but we're still going to watch it. Let me go over and check in with the National Weather Service, see if they have any plans with this tornado warning. If we can pull up the Washington camera, we can kind of give you a better idea of what's actually happening there at the waterfront. Again, this storm system, or this storm cell, continues to move northeast at about 55 miles per hour, and this warning goes until 11:45. So right now we have another 24 minutes or so with this tornado warning. Doesn't mean they may not cancel it sooner, but for right now, they've that warning is going to be in place through the rest of the newscast, and until they cancel that or deem it not dangerous anymore, I think we'll have to stay on air with this one just in case. There is still a little bit of rotation there, kind of southeast of Chocowinity. So this is pretty much right over Highway 33. And I said there wasn't much lightning. Looks like the lightning has picked up back near Jamesville, heading into Plymouth, where maybe we have more of a straight line wind threat. That would go through Plymouth and then head towards Roper next. That's the storms. That's the initial storm cell. If you're watching the beginning of the newscast, we talked about that one, providing some really heavy rain to areas around Chocowinity and Washington. This is not a very strong little cell there that continues to have that tornado warning. It's really just something that continues to pulse up a little bit, just broad rotation, but it spun up quick as it moved kind of right through the Vanceboro area and then moved up closer towards the river. And this should be across the river. Chocowinity looks like you're in the clear. This is going to be just to the east of you in Chocowinity. But with that next scan, again, moving at 55 miles per hour, highway speeds, these aren't lingering around. So the next scan would not be surprised to see this area of rotation either right over the river or already on the other side. So Washington and points east, both on Highway 32, 264, need to stay in your shelter spot. Lowest level home, interior room, usually a closet or bathroom. Just make sure there are a lot of walls between you and the outside. If you're in an apartment, go make friends with somebody on the first floor, because especially if you're on the second floor. I've lived that life before. Being in the second story, always had to go down to someone else's apartment if I wasn't working during a tornado warning. So just want to be as safe as possible, and especially with how strong the winds already are tonight, you really want to make sure you're as low to the ground as possible and protected by as many walls as possible as well. So here's that main area of rotation. New radar scan in, and like we thought, kind of right over the river, pushing over the river into the eastern portions of Washington, New River Road. Right there where kind of Highway 32 goes south and then reconnects back to 264. So if you're in those areas, kind of in this gap between Highway 32, 264, need to be in your tornado safe spot. Not looking too intimidating, but there is still rotation. So we're going to have to watch it closely. Don't just assume there's not a tornado with this, because especially in these situations where it's already so windy, you can get these really fast spin-ups that sometimes happen in between radar scans. We saw that last year with a few storm systems where it didn't look that impressive on radar, but afterwards we started getting damage reports and found out there were several tornadoes in a spot. Let's go back further north. So Washington continued to hunker down for a little bit longer. You can still see signs of some stronger winds pushing into Plymouth, Jamesville, I think the severe threat for now has passed, but remember, you've still got that storm down to the south that is responsible for that tornado warning. So don't sound the all clear just yet for you in Jamesville, but the strongest straight line winds appear to be in the Plymouth area and strong enough to maybe knock out power. We saw it in Carteret County earlier today. Wasn't a lot of power outages, but a couple hundred here adds up over time. So just make sure you're ready to maybe not have power for a couple of hours and stay away from the windows. Hopefully your power stays on and things go back to normal after this storm passes, but right now still watching things closely. And again, this is the one storm we're watching closely. No other warnings tonight, no watches in effect right now. Still some very heavy rain though falling across Plymouth, Highway 64 down towards Highway 32. We just continue to see kind of that Highway 32 corridor be the most active. All this east of Highway 17. Roper, you've probably seen the rain increase a little bit, but it's going to get a little bit heavier as this storm tracks a little bit closer to you. In fact, we can play it and kind of show you the path and the pace of this heavy rain. So it really may even stay a little bit further to your west, but still expecting maybe close enough to see the winds pick up a little bit. So this is going to be heading up further to the north towards the Sound, Edenton. Really need to pay attention to this because you're on the water. We know winds can move a little bit faster on water than they can on land. So if this stays as strong as it looks now, it may start to pick up a little bit more energy for those straight line winds as it heads your way. So I don't believe Edenton is under any type of warning unless they've extended this. Not yet, but well, you're right on the edge of that. So I'd go ahead and just prepare for some strong winds coming here in just a bit as we continue to see this storm move off to the north, 55 miles per hour. Let's go back to wind, make sure we're not missing anything, making sure this is not quickly spun up again. You can still see maybe a little bit of sign of a straight line of winds. Jamesville right on the edge of that tornado warning, but the threat would be further down, kind of right over the Washington area. And Harper in the back, do you have the Washington camera up for us? I'm ready to pull up. See if we can get that pulled up here in just a second. But definitely some increase in winds. Doesn't really see, when we talk about rotation, we talk about tornadoes, don't usually just have one color. We have color bar here, winds moving different directions. That's kind of what you want to see rotating if there is the chance of maybe a tornado. Right now, kind of looking like just some really strong winds there pushing across portions of Highway 32, 264. Tornado warning goes on for another 18 minutes. This is a pretty big tornado warning just because these are moving so fast, 55 miles per hour, that we will probably be with this the entire warning unless things really start to weaken, but still seeing a little bit of a sign of rotation. Not sure the National Weather Service is going to cancel this warning just yet, but I will check back in with them and see maybe if they have an update on what they're seeing. And again, these are not the usual suspects for tornadoes. These aren't the loud, big cells that kind of give us the chance of tornadoes. These are a little bit smaller, not building up as high, probably up to about maybe 20, 25,000 feet if that. Just it's very windy outside, and there's a lot of strong winds above our heads, so it's easier for some of those winds to be pulled down. Which is why we've already been seeing 40, 50, and even at times 60 mile per hour wind gusts, even without any storms earlier today. Does look like this threat has shifted a little bit past Washington now. So I'm going to go ahead and give the all clear for those in Washington Park, Washington River Road. I think you're good. Chocowinity, you're good. Down back towards Vanceboro, you've already been trimmed out of this tornado warning. This is going to be now a northern Beaufort County issue. Pinetown, this is going to get close to you over the next few minutes. And then again, Jamesville, Plymouth, not in an active tornado warning, but just keep your eyes on this to the south. I know you've already had one strong storm move through, high winds, some lightning, some thunder, but that's not it. This is a second little cell that's off to the south. You can kind of see right in here kind of what we're seeing there. Push off to the northeast. So this is where the area we're watching. This will continue to push up to the north. Let me see if we can zoom in here and focus a little bit more on where exactly we're seeing the areas where that rotation's a little bit stronger. And again, remember, these are moving 55 miles per hour, so it's here now, but next radar scan, it's going to jump up a couple streets and a little bit further to the north. So Johnson Road, still see Slatestown Road. That's where the rotation is currently, but it's probably already a little bit further to the north. Coney Road, or Corey Road, excuse me, and this is going to continue. So Johnson Road, really kind of the next area. If you know where Johnson Road is, if it's the next street over, need to be in your tornado safe spot, and this is just going to keep moving north over the next few minutes. And it looks like we did just get a change. Let me zoom out real quick, reset. It looks like a new tornado, or excuse me, a new severe thunderstorm warning was just issued. Kind of just connecting that old severe thunderstorm warning with a newer one. Let me see if I can check in with the National Weather Service so a little more. So yeah, it seems they're adjusting their polygons a little bit. Currently have one tornado warning with a couple different severe thunderstorm warnings. So here's kind of the overview. Looks like maybe they just trimmed that old tornado warning and still have those severe thunderstorm warnings that now include Edenton. So maybe that's the new one that popped up. So Edenton, you were kind of on the fence. Now you're included in a new severe thunderstorm warning. And that's where winds may get the strongest, talking about just physics and how wind works with land and buildings and trees versus when you end up with winds over water. Water's smooth, there's nothing to really slow down those winds. Also why usually when we see high wind events, the coast is the reason that we see everything kind of get be a little bit stronger out on the open water versus when things start to get inland. So still seeing a sign of some high winds there. Edenton, you would be next in the line. So Plymouth, the Edenton area, I think Skinnersville, you'll be okay. This should stay a little bit further to your west than anything. Mary Hill, kind of right there. You might see the winds pick up, but I don't know if you'll see the worst of it. Really, Plymouth to Edenton is kind of the area with the strongest straight line winds. Still seeing signs right there on the back end of this storm. Kind of what started the whole tornado warning process is still a little bit of rotation. And again, we're dealing with a radar site that's been down most of the day, so having to cycle through different radar sites to make sure we're getting the cleanest data, cleanest look at this storm with the radar situation that we have going on. So there it is. It's not looking as impressive. The rain's not as heavy, but anytime we kind of still look at the winds within the storm, you still see signs, maybe a little bit of rotation there. Slatestown Road, Toolhouse Road, Corey Road, moving up towards Smithwick Canal Road, Barber Number 1 Road. So if those areas sound familiar to you, that's where there still could be a little bit, enough rotation for maybe a quick tornado if they don't cancel this tornado warning soon. We've got about 13 minutes left on this tornado warning. There are the high winds. Right in there from Highway 45. Now more on the northeast side of Plymouth. So again, this is about to be out over open water, but if you're right there along the sound, north of Plymouth, winds are probably pretty strong, stronger than they've been all day, and we should see those start to cross over the sound. So Edenton, really need to be prepared for some strong straight line winds. And again, even if they're spinning or moving in a straight line, you want to stay away from the windows just in case. Because you really just don't want to mess with wind when it's this strong, the potential to be this strong, no matter which way it's moving. Good news is not seeing any type of sign of debris being lofted high. In a tough spot, I don't know if we would see anything there. If there was, it'd have to be really strong just how far we are from the radar. But there's just kind of your situation. You've got one storm out in front, Plymouth to Edenton, high wind, straight line wind threat. And then you have a tornado warning back down to the south that continues for northern Beaufort County and even up into portions of Martin County as well. So we will have to just keep an eye on this until they drop that warning. Pitt County, don't think you're hearing thunder, but you definitely hear the rain pickup north of the river, on the northwest side of Greenville, Farmville. That's where we see another little downpour, but again, it's not as strong is what we've been dealing with. Zooming out to an even better vantage point, this is it. This is the one storm that we're watching. Most of the organized severe weather continues to be up in Virginia. And then you have a little cell right here, just moved through Oriental, about to move up into Pamlico County. It is in Pamlico County and about to move up towards Bayboro and into Beaufort County. If there's anything we need to watch with that storm, probably just another round of some wind gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour. Not severe, but maybe just under severe limits. The one tornado warning we have is right there between Old Ford, Highway 32, north of Washington. And again, not the most impressive round of rotation, but just something to watch. Can't rule it out. That's why we're on air. As soon as we start to see this threat come to an end, we will go back to regular programming, which at this point, it looks like the 11 o'clock news will have wrapped up by the time we can kind of go back to programming. As a whole tonight, the rest of tonight, kind of just expecting more of the same. Some downpours, but not everything's going to be severe. In fact, this will hopefully be the one severe storm we're watching. If we go back down to the south, still a couple cells to watch, even out over open water. But as we head through the overnight, you can see those are starting to push more to the east. So once we get these next couple of storms out of here, I think really the Outer Banks, Ocracoke, Hatteras, maybe extreme eastern portions of Dare, Hyde County would be the area we need to watch for another rogue tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning. Looking with the National Weather Service, have not seen any damage reported from this. In fact, they just sent a message saying it's looking like it's starting to weaken substantially. And if the trend continues, they're going to let it expire in about 9 minutes. So 11:45 is when that next tornado warning is expected to come to an end. So it doesn't sound like they're going to cancel it earlier. They are getting into that time frame where they can't cancel it after a certain point, but looks like they're going to stick with it just in case. But I agree with the National Weather Service. This is really starting to fall apart. Not looking as impressive as it was when they first issued the tornado warning, and really has been trending down ever since they issued that tornado warning. So you can kind of see back where that first area of rotation, back when it was kind of right over Vanceboro, started to perk up a little bit, rotation increasing, and then as it's moved off to the northeast, you can watch it just kind of fall apart a little bit, especially the greens. So we had some rotation, some strong winds on one side, but just not enough shear or turning winds in the atmosphere to really make that wrap up, which is great. We don't want a tornado, we don't want damage, but just in case, it does sound like they're going to let this ride either until that watch expires, that warning expires, or it leaves the polygon. I think it's going to get out of the polygon as soon as we go after 11:40. So a couple more scans, and it looks like maybe we'll be able to give the all clear. Once it leaves that polygon, we will throw it back to our on-air programming. One second, still dealing with the radar that is out up in Virginia. Heavy rain and wind still pushing into Edenton. That's kind of what we'll take a look at next. You kind of still see some strong straight line winds within that storm. I apologize. Every time we switch from winds to radar, that radar that is down comes back in and kind of shows everything blank. But right there, you still see maybe even a little bit of rotation there coming over the water. So we'll watch that closely. Storm Prediction Center has put us in, let's see. As I read this, Storm Prediction Center is watching our area, watch unlikely, about a 20%. I agree. It's not worth a widespread watch for just a couple of storms. And you can kind of see those winds maybe getting a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit of weak rotation there east of Mary Hill. Any threat with that, if there was going to be a tornado, it's now over open water, so it'd be more of a water spout. So Edenton, just be on standby, maybe be close to your tornado safe spot just in case as this moves over the sound and moves into Edenton. Definitely going to be very windy. threat right now continues to look like strong straight line winds that'll be crossing over the sound. Plymouth looks like the worst of it has passed you for now, but still, the area within this tornado warning continue to see signs. Really not seeing much of a sign anymore. I think that has weakened below severe limits. Just really quick burst of rain east of Highway 171, in between 171, Highway 32, where all the counties meet together. That is where there's still some heavy rain, but tornado threat continues to look very low, next to zero, in my opinion. Severe thunderstorm warning continues. I think the bigger chance for issues with those straight line winds that'll be pushing over the sound and pushing over into Edenton here in a few minutes. Zooming out to kind of give you a recap of what we're watching. This is it. This is really the one storm that has been able to get up close to severe weather limits, especially for straight line winds, and at times has shown some signs of rotation. Further to the north up in Virginia, I think that's where the greater severe weather threat is. Don't expect to watch tonight. And besides the Outer Banks and maybe a few coastal counties with these storms all the way down here off the coast, I would think that the chance of any other spot seeing a tornado warning continues to be next to zero. Maybe slightly higher there for the Outer Banks, but still not very high. The cloud cover today did its job of keeping things a little more stable than it would have been if we'd had some sunshine today. So thankful for that. Tornado warning for another 5 minutes, but this is right on the edge of the polygon and really just a shower at this point. We're going to stick with it until it officially leaves the polygon and we continue to see strong winds to the north with that storm system, storm cell pushing over the sound from Plymouth, Roper, over towards Edenton. So this would be the area right now, I think, the greatest concern for any severe weather. Not necessarily a tornado, but just straight line of winds. When you see the winds brighten up like that, kind of right over the water right now, this is kind of the area where maybe we get some power outages as this pushes across the water into the Edenton area. Not just limited to Eden. If you're on either side of Edenton, I would go ahead and be close to, or just stay inside. Stay away from the windows. These winds are going to pick up. Can't rule out a few trees on the ground with how wet it's been over the past month. So just something to watch as this pushes through. But hopefully nothing. Hopefully these winds weaken a little bit, but I think this is probably a bigger issue than the area of rotation that's still down with that dying shower south of Jamesville. So 2 more minutes on this tornado warning until it officially expires. I mean, the winds have really collapsed within that. That storm not really as strong as it was when that tornado warning was first issued, not even as strong as it was 5 minutes ago, as it continues to kind of stay behind some of these stronger showers and storms that continue to push off to the northeast. So Edenton, that continues to be the biggest concern, straight line winds coming off the water and moving further up to the north, and should be pushing in right now. The next scan should have those stronger winds right in Edenton. So as soon as that tornado warning expires and we see that drop off the map, these winds should be pushing through Edenton, and then it passes up into the Norfolk area. In fact, that old severe thunderstorm warning has been allowed to expire, but still have the current severe thunderstorm warning. It'll be in effect for another 10, 15 minutes or so until it leaves the polygon. So back down to the south, tornado warning is still in effect. You probably see it scrolling on the bottom of your screen, but I think the threat has ended with this area of rotation east of Old Ford, east of Highway 171, between there and Highway 32. Just not looking as impressive as it was earlier. If you're in Washington, if you're in Chocowinity, if you have some damage, some tree limbs down, branches down, send me a message on Facebook, send us an email, let us know if there was any damage. We can pass that along to the National Weather Service so they can kind of put the pieces together if there was any rotation. Vanceboro too, where that rotation was the strongest when they first issued that warning. Just let us know. We can't report on things that we don't see or that we don't know happen. So sometimes we want you to be our eyes and ears after the storm passes, when it's safer to step outside and see if there's any wind damage around your property, whether it was straight line of winds or a tornado. Jamesville, Plymouth, going to sound the all clear for you. You should be okay unless something dramatically changes with that storm down to the south. So I think you're good if you're in Janesville and Plymouth. Really the one area where I think we could get a little bit of damage will be with this straight line of wind threat pushing into Edenton, where kind of Highway 94 crosses the sound up to Highway 17, kind of this area right in here. I don't know how old this scan is, but the next scan probably has those winds a little bit further to the northeast because this is moving at 55 miles per hour. Very fast pace with these. They're not sticking around. That's why it's so easy for some of these strong winds to be pulled down. Under a minute to go until that tornado warning is allowed to expire. We'll keep scanning kind of back and forth. But Edenton right now, I'll be interested to see how strong your winds are. I bet it's getting a little bit louder than it's been all day, even with these very strong south winds that have just stuck around. Wind advisory goes in effect, goes until midnight. They may have to extend that as well just because of how windy it is still on the coast as this system passes through. Again, not seeing any tornado threat right now. Still some showers, still maybe a brief burst of rain, but that tornado warning continues to not to be an issue anymore. Officially expires right now. There it goes. All right. So before we send it back, let's go back up to this one little cell that continues to move into the Edenton area. Again, straight line wind threat for Edenton all the way from Highway 32, Highway 94, up towards the Edenton area, the Highway 17 corridor. That's where if we do have any issues, I think it's going to be with this. Not rotation, not necessarily a tornado, though it is over water. I think it's just going to be, wind, straight line winds. Regardless if it's spinning, moving the same direction, you want to stay away from your window. So we'll keep our eye on that. If any more tornado warnings get issued, we will come back on. But for now, we're going to send it back to programming. And again, to reiterate, this has been our only issue tonight. Hopefully will be our only issue the overnight. Just have a way to get warnings just in case something else pops up. But the last message from the Storm Prediction Center, they issue the watches. They don't expect to issue a watch for our entire area. So we're here. We'll keep our eyes on it. We'll cut back on if we need to.